Hi everyone, Sharon from Mad Paper Crush here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to start a series on creating a fabric covered journal from start to finish. And I'm going to be using some different materials that I haven't used before in making a journal. And we're going to be starting with this artist canvas board. So I wanted to make the book of specific size. I wanted it to be 9 by 6, and I didn't have any books that were that size that I could use, for the covers. And I actually was just kind of, looking through my loads of stuff that I have all over the place. And I had a bunch of these that I had gotten in a pack for something. And I thought I could give this a try to make it. So we're going to cut this apart to make our cover. And then we're going to, create a spine as well. And then we're going to, in the next video, we're probably going to work on the signatures in the middle and, doing the end pages and stuff. So I hope that you'll join me in creating this fabric covered journal. Okay, let's talk about supplies and tools. So I am going to use this artist board, this canvas board. It's a thin one, so it's 9 by 12 inches, and this will be perfect because I wanted my journal to be 9 inches tall, but I wanted, the side to be 6 inches wide. So this is 12 inches wide. So when we cut it down, that should work perfectly for us. So I'm going to cut this in half. So to do that, you're going to need a good utility knife, I believe. So I've never cut one of these in half before, so you'll be doing this right along with me. Then also I'm going to use this chipboard as the spine. So once we cut it in half, I want to have about a 2-inch spine. So I cut 2 pieces of 2-inch chipboard by 9 inches. So the height of the journal, and then whatever width you want your spine to be. Mine's going to be 2 inches. And then, of course, you need some fabric. And I've never used this fabric before, so I'm hoping that it works. It's not real heavy, but it is, I don't know. I think it's like an upholstery fabric, but we'll see how it works. I just cut this piece to be, bigger, excuse me, than my board and my spine, to make sure that I'd have enough to wrap around. So, I don't, it's not even going to be measured, and I probably will cut it down once we get to that point. But I have it ready to go so that we can, we can put it on, attach it when we're ready. And then I'm going to use Fabri-Tac probably to adhere the fabric. And I'm also going to use this tacky glue to attach the chipboard together. So let's go ahead and do that first. Let's go ahead and get this together so that it can start drying. So I'm just going to take this tacky glue, and some of my glues I store on the side so that I don't have to wait for them to, get down into the into the nozzle. Just a little, tip there. I don't know if I can't, I'm not patient enough to wait for it to come down. Okay, and I think I'm going to put it on both sides here and this one I just won't do as much, but I'm going to get some glue on this one as well. And then we'll stick these together and, wait for them to dry. So I'm going to make sure they're good and lined up. And I may even put some clips on them just to make sure they really stay together side by side. So I'm going to go ahead and just put some clips on here. I can see this is already wanting to pull apart. So I think the clips is a good idea. And then I'm just checking it to make sure it's together and even all the way around. Which it looks like it is. And I am just kind of pushing it a little bit just to kind of give it a head start on staying together. All right, we're going to put that aside and let that dry. Okay, now we're going to see if we can cut this board. I need my pencil because I want to make sure I mark it exactly where I want it and hopefully I can cut on that line. So this is 12 inches wide, and so I'm just going to cut it right in half. So I'm just going to make a few marks so that I have a nice straight line. And then mark it. And I'm going to use my metal ruler. I love this metal ruler. I use it for everything, not just stuff like this, but I'm going to use my metal ruler as my guide because then I won't cut the ruler, because I've done that before. I've had plastic rulers and I've cut them because I push down so hard and then the blade gets away from me sometimes. So be careful when you're using this utility knife. I'm just going to line this up, and I'm going to start light just to kind of hopefully make a groove here. Each time pushing down a little bit harder, and I did go out there just a bit. Let me try again here. I can feel it cutting through the canvas part of this, so that's good. And just keep going, pushing a little bit harder. Now we're getting down in there. Now I'm just going to make a mark in the top and the bottom. So I'm just taking my blade in the groove that I've made and then just kind of rolling it around the top to get a nice groove in there. And now that I have that groove, I don't even need my knife anymore, or I'm sorry, my ruler anymore. I can just work my knife in the groove. So once again, watch your hands and just keep going until you get to the end. There we go. Getting there. Still feel, oh, there we go. There's some of the fibers at the side. So I'm curious what's on the inside here. I've never done that before. So looks like some press board or something in there, particle board or something. But nice and sturdy book covers for my book here, which is what I wanted. Okay, so now we're gonna check on our spine. Let's see how it is looking here. And now we can talk about putting this thing together. Okay, I decided I want to try to attach my spine and my sides together before I put the fabric on. I think it'll be a little bit easier to put the fabric on if these are already attached. So what I'm going to do is I just cut a little piece of scrapbook paper. This is not, it's not cardstock or anything, just scrapbook paper. And I cut it 9 inches tall by 6 inches wide. And I did that so that it'll, you know, have about, so I cut it 4 inches larger than my spine so that I'll have about 2 inches on each side for this to be attached. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my scissors and just taper the edges a little bit in. I'm just going to even go right from the middle, just because I don't want the paper to stick over the edges when I'm wrapping my fabric around. So I'm just eyeballing this. So once I get this cut, you'll see what I mean. And you can tell I have glue on my scissors. I think I need to get some Goo Gone on those and get those taken care of. Okay, so I have my, my centers here. But this is going to hold everything together so that when we put our fabric on, you know, we'll sort of have one piece that we're putting it with. Now, the other thing that I did want to just mention is when you're gluing your things together, you want your spine and your two sides lined up nice and straight. And then you want to be sure that you leave a gap in between the spine and the covers so that the covers have room to open and close. So I want the canvas part of this board to be against my fabric. So I'm going to make this the inside. So these are the inside of the front and the back. And then I have my spine here. So let me line these up again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by just putting some glue on the spine itself. And we'll start that. We'll start with the glue there. And I think that this is enough room. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the spine to put the glue on. But when I glue the paper on, I'm going to make sure it's sort of even in between those two pieces. So let's get your glue all over the spine. In the sides. Get my lid on there. Okay. So now I'm just going to try to center this right on that middle. And then I'm going to glue the sides down as well. And it doesn't look like this is lined up very good for some reason. Well, now I've done it. Okay, I'm going to put this within my 2-inch block here. And then I'm going to try to give this about 1/4 of an inch because I think that's just about how big the front and the back are. Maybe a little less than 1/4, I don't know. And then, all right, let's try this now. That looks better on the top and bottom. I'm going to just hold my spine down. And hopefully if I have enough glue, I'm just going to glue this in here. Okay, and now let's do the other side. My glue is ready to go. It's coming out of the bottle already. Let's see, where does that go? Up to here. And all this will be covered by end pages and things, so I'm not too concerned about how much glue goes down. I just want to, what I really am doing here is just trying to make this one piece so that it'll be easier to put my fabric on. Okay. Get the glue off my fingers. And we'll give this a second to dry. Okay, it's all dried. And when you flip it over, you can see I have my spine and my gaps, but this is going to be a little bit easier, I think, to cover now that I have it all attached as one piece. So let's go ahead and work on getting the fabric down. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to use this one. I want to use my Fabri-Tac because it's a full bottle. And because it says it's for fabric. So I have always thought that these are the same, but I don't know that they really are. I don't know. Well, we're going to use the Beacon Fabri-Tac for this one. So if I ever determine if they're really the same or not, I will let you know. But right now, we want to be sure our fabric goes down. So first thing I'm going to do is just do the spine. So I'm going to cover my spine with glue. And because I want to be sure that there are no ridges or anything, I am going to just smooth the glue around so that when I put the fabric down, first of all, there's good coverage, but second of all, you won't be able to see any of those like glue lines that I just made. So I'm just smearing it down with my finger, and I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to fold it in half inside out, and then I'm just going to line it up about halfway on the spine there, and then open it up to be sure that I have enough coverage around the whole thing, because that would definitely be something I would do. So, and I'm going to get out my brayer here. Ooh, that's squeaky. And just make sure that the fabric is down in every spot possible. And I think that's doing pretty good. I do feel a little bit of glue coming through there. But I think that's covering nicely. So now I'm just going to turn it so it's sideways here, and then let's take a look at what we got. So yeah, I think that's going to work. Okay, so now what I want to do is what do I want to do? Let's see. I think I want to be sure I leave enough room for the fabric to go in these the gaps that I left in the front and back. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them in there so that I know that, you know, there will be enough fabric to go in there and look nice with the book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get some glue on the edge of my spine on both sides, and then glue that down. So I'm just going to, and I may just put a teeny bit like on this paper that we have, just to make sure it's held in place when we glue it down. So now I'm going to just make sure, use my ruler here to make sure that fabric is all the way against my spine. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. I'm going to try to do it without lifting it up. Maybe not. All right, I think I'm going to give this a couple minutes to dry, because I really don't want to end up pulling it off. So let's take it slow, guys. Let this dry. Okay. Now let's do the other side. Same thing. Let's put some glue right on the spine. And a little bit down on our paper that we connected everything with. We're going to do the same thing. Make sure that the fabric gets down in that gap. And then we'll let that dry. Okay, it's all dry in here. Got a little on this side, but that's okay. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to glue the rest down. So for this, I'm just going to fold this back and we're going to add our glue. And I am going to spread this around so that it doesn't have those lines. And I'm going to try to make it only thick enough to hold the fabric down, since I felt it come through on that on the spine piece. And we'll see how I do, but and I think the other thing I want to do is I want to try to be sure I get some glue down in that on the side that I didn't do of the book. So in that little gap, just make sure that there's a little bit of glue in there. So that we have it stuck all around. Okay, so now I'm just going to carefully lay that over and make sure the side is down. Some glue on there. And I'm going to use my brayer to roll the fabric. I apologize for that squeaking. Boy, I need some oil in there or something. Okay. That's looking good, I think. And let's go ahead and do this side, same thing. Okay. Now I'm going to very carefully, because it's not quite dry yet, flip this over and I'm going to trim it down. So I'm just going to leave myself about a little over an inch, maybe 1.25 inches all the way around. So I'm going to trim all the rest of that excess fabric off. Okay, so now we can start our fold over. So I haven't really decided how I want to do these corners, because I want to be sure that my edge is covered, but I don't want it to be too bulky in the corners either. So I could do this one of two ways. I could fold this over and then fold the side up and in, and the side up and in. but that leaves a lot of fabric here. And I'm not sure I want all that fabric there. So I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to cut the corners out, like you would do if you were, you know, wrapping something with paper. But to do that, I want to be sure that I leave enough fabric to cover the thickness of my board. So I'm just going to try to make a mark, maybe with my grease pencil. Let's see if this will show. To make sure I don't go in too far. And you can't even see that. See, hopefully this won't show through, but yeah, that's better. Okay, so I'm just making a little mark that's about the thickness of the board away from the corner there. So I know where to cut, and I'm going to do that on all sides. Because I definitely want to have enough fabric to cover the corner. All right, so let's give this a try. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the corners out just on a little bit of a slant. So let's see if I can do this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the edge at a little bit of a slant, but I'm going to make sure I don't go in past my little red mark. So I'm going to cut into that, and then from the other angle, we'll do the same thing. So now I'm going to cut in from this side just a little bit in there. So hopefully this will do what I think it's going to do, but not leave me, not leave an exposed corner. So that's going to work the way I think it's going to work. So I'm going to go around and cut out all the corners like that. Okay, now we can start covering. So since I have these little wrinkles because we pushed the fabric down on our spine side here, we have to figure out how to deal with these. So I think I'm going to just cut a little bit. I don't know if I should do that. Maybe I'll just cut one. I was thinking I would cut in a little, and once again, I'm not going to go all the way into the board. So I'm just going to cut these little things out because I don't want them to be wrinkled as they fold over the top of my book cover. And this fabric is soft enough that you could probably do it without doing this. You could probably just smooth it out. But I feel like it's going to be wrinkled in there. And I don't want wrinkles. I don't want wrinkles. I'm going to... All right. Let's see if that's going to do what I think it's going to do. Yeah, that just gives me some wiggle room as we fold over the fabric to cover it on this side. So let's go ahead and do this edges here. So everything's dry. I'm going to put a little fabric tack, excuse me, good heavens. I'm going to put a little fabric tack on the fabric itself, and I'm going to try and smooth it out before I fold it over. And I'm going to do this whole side. And actually, I'm going to make sure I get some glue on the side of the board, you know, on the very top of the spine and the board. And see if we can smooth this out real quick. Use 2 fingers. Okay, so now I'm going to start from the middle. And lift all of these over. And I'm going to make sure right in these little corners, these little gaps there, that I've really pushed it down in there. And make sure it's nice and adhered to the top of the boards. And then just make sure it's tucked down in that gap there. Okay, now let's do the other side. Same thing. I keep wanting to take the glue off my fingers, but I might as well wait until I get this done. Okay, along the board and along your fabric. Ooh. Along the board. And this one, I think I'm probably putting a little too much glue. I'm not saying I recommend that, but I really felt it coming through the fabric on the other side. But I'm kind of an overachiever that way. I want to be sure. I want to be sure it stays. Okay. Let's go ahead. Make sure that's up and over. And because I cut the fabric, it does look like it's fraying just a little bit on those edges. So if you wanted to try this without cutting it, that might work too. Okay, it's pressed up against my board good. And I'm just pinching my little gaps here. I don't know why. Okay, now to do the sides, because I want to be sure, and I left that little bit of corner, I'm just going to make sure I kind of glue these in a little first before I pull this up. Okay, so I'm going to just put a little dab of glue right in this corner on that little edge of fabric that's kind of sticking out over. And then I'm just going to push those edges in just a little bit, and I'm going to hold it because I really want that to be stuck down before I put my final side up. So I'm going to do this on both sides. So I'll speed this up so you don't have to watch me do this. Okay, once those are stuck down, then we can go ahead and fold our sides in. So I'm going to do it basically the way I did the top and the bottom. I'm going to put a bead of glue on the side of my cover board and then add glue to my fabric and give it a little smoothing before I put it together. And then we'll pull it up. And hopefully we have nice corners, which I think that we do. And then let's go ahead and do the other side. And the glue is definitely coming out a little bit through the fabric, so we'll have to make sure it's good and dry before we do too much more. Okay, I think we've got it covered. Now I'm not going to, I really want to pick it up and touch it and move it around, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to really test myself and make sure it's good and dry before we do that. So let's let this dry. Okay, we are all good and dry, and I think it turned out just lovely. And I love the pattern here, and we have enough movement, and our corners are all covered. I think this is looking good. And now we can move on to creating our inside. We're going to do our signatures and then we will put them in.